So do you want to swap books?
I put everything in there.
Is it? If everybody start moving to their seats and getting seated, we'll begin to start our next session. Thank you. Going well? You happy? You look at it.
I'm getting work done too.
That's good. That's awesome. That's great.
My congressman had him in the corner. So I think he's going to
Okay.
I'm going to go see your, what's Trent?
Yeah.
I'm going to see him when I'm in D.C. He's a good guy.
He's involved for Congressman Second.
You can see that.
You walk through his room, it's just a shrine to the National Guard.
Really?
His office, yeah. So
He's very, I've talked to him a long time.
you'd be very welcome there. Okay, it's time to resume. I want to take a moment to recognize, yesterday we talked about Indonesia and the Philippines being here as part of an SPP partnership. I had noticed earlier in the day that there were some Paraguay officers here with their sponsor, Massachusetts, and then we also have Poland here today with their Illinois SPP partnership. So for all of our SPP partners who are here in attendance, thank you for being here with us, and we hope that you take something away from this association also. Thank you. So it's now time to hear and see a little bit about our next General Conference, the 146th General Conference in Detroit, Michigan. And General Paul Rogers is with us today, the Adjutant General for Michigan and a member of our board. He is here to share our plans for the 145th General Conference and Exhibition in the Motor City, the 146th. So Paul, you're here. You have the stage. Come on up. Round of applause. This is the biggest applause you're going to get. So
Yeah, I know.
There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for taking time out to come back from your break and be part of this. This is an opportunity for me to recruit you, actually, so consider me a recruiter. I need you to help us spread the word, spread the message for next year's conference. We're really looking forward to hosting it. But before I get into that and invite some of my other partners up here, I just wanted to give a shout out to NGAUS and to the state of Nevada and the National Guard of Nevada. This is an amazing event. I've loved every minute of it here. To me, it looks flawless. I don't know what's happening behind the curtain, but it looks flawless. And I just, great compliments, sir, to you for what you've accomplished here this year. So we have a hard act to follow. Michigan is proud to host the conference next year. We're hosting it in our iconic city, Detroit. If you've not been to Detroit in the last 3 years, you have not been to Detroit. It is a rapidly changing and evolving scene that just has some incredible opportunities for us. And we're very fortunate to be able to host this event next year. But before I go too much further, I'd like to invite a key partner because we've chosen, in 2019 when we put this bid out, we reached out to a great friend, Knox Limbacher from the Virgin Islands. And we said, hey, how about Michigan and the Virgin Islands go in as a partnership for this conference? And he immediately said yes. So Knox Limbacher, if you can come up and join me. What I want to do is just, yep. So Detroit is a great venue, and it is going to be amazing, but having the Virgin Islands as a partner is going to make it even a little bit more special. So I just wanted to pivot to you, sir, and have you just describe what you're bringing to the event. And I gave him 3 minutes notice to get up here and say something. So.
It was always great to be up here. So once again, as many of you may not know, both Michigan and Virgin Islands have a unique partnership. So this kind of like our big brother here that comes out and makes sure he helped my aviation units, and actually in Michigan, right now on the border, was taught to make sure they can meet the readiness requirements. So we talked about the NGAUS piece. It's like, hey, why don't we have an island carnival in Belle Isle? So if you've ever seen Michigan, so the Knox part of my family is actually from Michigan area. and then the linebackers down in the Virgin Islands. But if you look right there above Detroit, between Canada, there's a little island called Belle Island. So we figured we can actually bring a little bit of Caribbean flavor with Michigan, merge it together, and have a great event. So we're looking forward for all of you coming out and doing great things with us in August. I think it's a great partnership. Very diverse community there in Michigan, so I think we'll have a wonderful time there and look forward to all of you being there. So thanks again for the partnership. Thanks again for everything NGAUS does for us. I look forward for all the Army and Air National Guard personnel to get there and have a great time. Awesome.
And I'm speaking to the choir, but everything we do is partnership-based. Whether it's a state partnership with international or inside the family, we are not successful without great partners. And the Virgin Islands are going to be a great partner for this event. So we're very blessed to have them. Another great partner was the state of Michigan. And I just want to highlight this. Our goal is to drive down costs. The legislature in the state of Michigan, based on the leadership of Governor Whitmer, has appropriated $2 million of state funds to support this conference next year and to help underwrite it. And that's going to help us achieve a goal. We want this to be the year of the company grade. We want to promote company grade participation. I always talk about bloodless coups and hostile takeovers, and I want the company grades to take over the association, put their voice and power behind it, and start to drive our direction forward. And Detroit is a great place to start. So company grade and below, you have 0 registration costs for next year's conference. We're going to continue to work with industry to continue to raise monies and try to make it a 0 registration fee for everybody. The airlines have already agreed to a 10% break for all people flying in, and Detroit's a great hub with direct flights from all over the country. So I think it's going to be very easily accessible, and we're making it family friendly, so we're looking at venues for the kids. If you bring your families, they have things to do while we're in a professional development session. So we're really turning out every part of Detroit we can to make this successful. I'd like to stop talking now and show a quick video.
This is a city on a river, a city connected by our Great Lakes. Every inch of Michigan coastline flows past Detroit. Back on my daddy's ride, top down, cruising up East Jefferson, headed to that water. I am Detroit summer. Michigan front lawn sprinklers, sidewalk hopscotch, and brand new sneakers. Techno and Motown flying up the boulevard, my riverfront soundtrack loud. Covered by boats and my girlfriend's yachts, our mother's vision, our daddy's assembly line hearts. I am the shops lining Livernois Avenue of fashion. From the west side to the east side, up Grand River, off Davison, on Gratiot. The north end, passion in our DNA. Detroit summers are best outside. We are a feeling, an infinite sound. I am Detroit summer, and style is a must. We roller skate late, a beautiful place to create, to dream, to laugh aloud. Calling I Got Next on an outdoor court. A multitude of languages and cultures, a blend of soul food and spices. Backyard barbecues, live music festivals, and farmers markets. Detroit, our summer is now. We are the end of night shift, joining the morning drive, the hustle, the head nod, and the black hand side, the entrepreneur and the 9 to 5. This earth is our dance floor. Our legacy, our grace, our history is in the ground. We are a community connected to neighborhoods. Us, the beautiful ones, inside the Michigan hand. Water that connects indigenous land. Keep it fresh. Keep it moving. Make it a Detroit summer. Make it pure Michigan.
You may have heard that popular African proverb. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Well, cliche as it may sound, this town has come a long way together because we all showed up every day to give you our absolute best. We invite you again to visit Detroit, experience it, embrace this rich region. We welcome you with warm hearts, open arms, and gracious smiles. In Detroit, our visitors become guests. Our guests become friends. Our friends become family. And because family is unstoppable, nothing is impossible. Amazing is achievable, and success inevitable.
Excellent. Thank you for that. I realize we only have 5 more minutes to close this deal, so I'm going to turn it over to some key leaders in our organization, Lieutenant Colonel Sands and Lieutenant Colonel Sims.
Thank you, and good morning, everybody. So I'm Lieutenant Colonel Richie Sands. I'm the president of the National Guard Association of Michigan, and we're extremely humbled and honored to be hosting this next year. And I promise you, whatever your expectations are of Detroit, the city will exceed them. It is an extremely clean and vibrant, beautiful city, and the resurgence has really been capitalizing on our architecture and our historic facilities that we're going to highlight and demonstrate and host this event at next year. So we're going to take you to Campus Marxist, which is owned by Rocket Mortgage, and show you exactly the beauty that the mortgage industry has really revitalized the center of downtown to the point where the NFL draft is being hosted, their draft outdoors in Detroit, the same location, only a few months before our conference. We're going to show you the Grosse Pointe War Memorial and some of our historical sites from the arsenal of democracy, and hosting events at some of the most beautiful lakeside facilities that the city and the state have to offer. And I promise you, if you've never seen a freshwater coast, the Great Lakes will blow you away, as well as Lake St. Clair. We already talked about Belle Isle, the jewel that's going to be. We're going to take you down to Henry Ford and truly show you where the automotive industry was born and the legacies there, and have our state's dinner. We actually can see and tour the facilities where Thomas Edison developed the first light bulb, as well as some of the historical things with Ford Motor Company that really helped us capitalize in the city of Detroit and our manufacturing, as well as shutting down Greektown and some of the best nightlife that we have to offer you as well too. Shut down the entire street and row of restaurants and bars to have exceptional evening and social events for y'all. I promise you, when you come to Detroit, we are absolutely professionals at showing and demonstrating to the world the future of our leadership, of our nation, and of our industries. Every year, the Huntington Place Event Center, where this conference is going to be held, brings global leadership together and demonstrates, again, Detroit's vibrant city, as well as what we have to offer through our annual auto show that conducts every single year. So I look forward to hosting and seeing everybody there. And again, I promise you, we will absolutely exceed whatever your expectation are to Detroit, and you will leave there understanding exactly how beautiful it truly has become and how clean of a facility it is. Karen?
Hello, 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 everybody. I hail from Detroit, and I have to tell you that I was born and raised in Detroit. And what I bring to you is I saw Detroit when it was at its best, I saw Detroit when it was at its worst, and now I see Detroit in its revitalized state. I look forward to you being there so that you can experience what it is like to be in Detroit. It is a cultural explosion. I will tell you everything from going back to the 1900s when it was considered the Paris of the West. And then you roll into the 20th century and it became the Motor City capital of the world. It is bursting with art and history and culture. We have the Detroit Institute of Arts, we have the Children's Museum, the History Museum. We have a ton of restaurants and bars that are there to satisfy your every desire, your palate. Some of our Detroit favorites that we want you to get a taste of is our Detroit Coney. American Coney Island, it is Lafayette Coney Island. Our pizza, Detroit-style pizza, Buddy's was originated there along with Luigi's. If you like jazz, we got Cliff Bell's. If you like country, we got that. Anything that you think you want to do, you can do it there. It is everything from the Irish, the German, the Greek, the African American, Mexican town, Cork town, you name it, we got it. All we want you to do is get there, and we can take it from there and show you what it means to be in Detroit. We look forward to having you at NGAUS 2024.
So again, appreciate it. We look forward to everybody seeing you in Detroit next year, and I promise you this, there ain't no party like a Detroit party. Thank you, sir. I appreciate everything you have.
And Paul, I'm a baseball fan, so I may be able to get in a Detroit Tigers game while I'm there. So thank you all for your presentation. I think we're all looking forward to Detroit next year. So Paul, thank you and your team for your presentation. So we're now going to receive a report from the National Guard Education Foundation. The NGEF is our entity that preserves and shares all 387 years of the Guard story. We have with us today Will Roulette, who is the Deputy Director. Will, your report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, NGAUS. As the Deputy Director, it's my honor and privilege to deliver our annual report. Born in 1916, Brigadier General William W. Spruance was a graduate of Princeton University's class of 1939. He was commissioned as a field artillery officer and served under General George Patton at the outset of World War II. In 1942, he transferred to the Army Air Corps and was assigned to flying the hump over the Himalayas in the China-Burma-India theater. After the war, he became a founding member of the Delaware Air National Guard. General Spruance became committed to safety and education after a near-fatal T-33 crash in 1961. He gave over 3,000 speeches worldwide to pilots of all military services concerning flight safety and crash survival. He was an active member of NGAUS for more than 50 years, serving in several key roles, including on the board of directors of the National Guard Educational Foundation. A strong, smart, assertive, and generous man, General Spruance loved the National Guard. To this day, General Spruance remains the single largest individual benefactor of the National Guard Educational Foundation, having personally donated hundreds of thousands of dollars. General Spruance passed away at the age of 94 in 2011, but his legacy and impact on our organization remain as strong as ever. That's why the one and only award the National Guard Educational Foundation offers is aptly named after our founding father. The Brigadier General William W. Spruance Legacy Award is conferred upon an organization, individual, family, or corporate partner who has made sustained contributions and supported the Foundation's mission to preserve the history and heritage of the National Guard of the United States. It is presented here to recognize support of a magnitude worthy of acknowledgement and visibility at the national level. Rocky Brands of Nelsonville, Ohio, has been a longtime partner of the National Guard Educational Foundation, the National Guard Association of the United States, and the men and women of our National Guard. Rocky not only equips the force, but also strongly believes in the importance of telling the story of the Guard. Rocky Brands has been a steadfast supporter for over the past decade and made the National Guard Educational Foundation a philanthropic priority, donating over $100,000 through the Legion de Lafayette program. In addition, Rocky supports the National Guard Association of the United States each and every year through platinum corporate membership and exhibiting at our annual conference. Rocky is synonymous with the National Guard, and its commitment to the well-being of our nation's citizen soldiers is second to none. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Major Retired Mark Dean, Rocky Brands General Manager and Vice President for Commercial Military and Public Service Sales, to receive the 2023 Brigadier General William W. Spruance Legacy Award.
Good morning. As Will mentioned, I'm Mark Dean, Rocky Brands Vice President and General Manager for the Commercial, Military, and Public Service categories. I'm a proud retiree of the Ohio Army National Guard, son, grandson, great-grandson, cousin, and uncle of proud military veterans, and a member of the Sons of the American Revolution. Before I launch into my paid public announcement, which I'm sure you're looking forward to, I wanted to thank the great state of Nevada for hosting this year's conference. I'd also like to recognize all the distinguished individuals in attendance. On behalf of Rocky Brands CEO, Jason Brooks, and the 2,500 Rocky associates worldwide, I wanted to humbly and very appreciatively thank the National Guard Educational Foundation board and staff for recognizing Rocky Brands as the recipient of the 2023 Brigadier General Spruance Award. After Luke notified me of the impending recognition, I did some detailed research on Brigadier General Spruance. Not having the fortune of meeting him, I quickly gained an appreciation of the full magnitude of this honor. The 342 combat missions First Lieutenant Spruance flew in the Pacific Theater in World War II, followed by his dedication to our country and its communities, illustrated the impact one human can have on the country. Now, a word from our sponsor. Since our very meager beginning in 1932 on the heels of the Great Depression, Rocky has been an integral part of the fabric of America, specifically in our country's military and public service communities. We're located in Nelsonville, along with our 3 stoplights, that's got to get something there, come on, 3 stoplights, in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains and the reaches of southeast Ohio. Like many towns in our region, our heritage is founded on the rugged, blue-collar, hard-working coal mining industry. Through ingrained work ethic and determination, Rocky has grown into a $500 million company, boasting of several brands in our portfolio supporting the hard-working Americans who carry M4s, patrol roads, put out fires, wear hard hats, herd cattle, 2-step on Saturday nights, weed gardens, jump in mud puddles at the bus stop, and land the deadliest catch. You may be familiar with some of our brands: Rocky, Georgia, Durango, Lehigh, and the newest additions to our family, Muck Boots and for any of you Alaskans out there, extra tough. Rocky's relationship with the military began in the 1940s when Uncle Sam commandeered our factory to make boots for the service men and women overseas. John Brooks, the son of the Rocky founder, took his cue, and he enlisted in the Army, becoming a proud member of the Golden Lions of the 424th Infantry Regiment, 106th Division, fighting in numerous engagements to include the Battle of the Bulge. John passed this duty to several of his sons who served during the Vietnam era. Mike, with the Ohio Army National Guard, and Jay, who had turned down a full football scholarship to Miami of Ohio and the opportunity to play for Bo Schembechler, to don the Eagle Globe at anchor for the United States Marine Corps and deploy to the jungles of Vietnam. Today, Rocky has many associates serving in the reserve component, veterans, and family members who are currently on active duty, such as this distinguished member in the crowd, I can't see him right now, Command Sergeant Major retired Ralph Borja, a 2021 Ranger Hall of Fame inductee. Ralph and his beautiful wife, Nuette, are the consummate American success story and Army couple, having served 31 years together. Both first generations Americans who have passed on the importance of serving to their children. First Sergeant Zachary Borja is in the midst of his own successful active duty Army career. My mentor and close friend, Major John Harris of the Buckeye State, carried on this tradition from his father and has now passed it along to his daughter, who is currently serving in the Ohio Army National Guard, Ohio Air Army National Air Guard. I've got that Army stuck in my head. I can't blame you there. The list could go on. However, we all have our reasons for volunteering. The operative word, going back a paragraph, I'm sorry, a little nervous up here, please bear with me. However, we all have our own reasons for volunteering. The operative word is volunteering. But why volunteer? Why pass it on? Why do we do this in the first place? Why did the majority of individuals sitting in this room today, at this very moment, raise their right hand and knowingly and willingly agree to potentially make the ultimate sacrifice for your country, your state, and your family? Something deep in your being called you to give, to serve, with no real expectation of receiving anything larger in return. We've all felt it. That feeling deep in the night when you're far, far from the ones you love. I encourage you to remember and recognize that feeling each and every day. Wear it, own it, educate and develop those around you. We owe it to them to pass the torch. Never forget, you are the backbone of our communities in their hour of need. It's happening today in California. You're the ones who answer our country's call domestically and across the globe. You are the legacy of those patriots who gathered in 1775 to form these free United States. We are the critical piece in making this country what it is today. By the grace of God, the National Guard has opened its arms and welcomed Rocky Brands to the family. Rocky Brands will always be there to support you and your families as you dedicate your lives to the greater good. We are honored and extremely proud to be associated with patriots like yourselves. Once again, thank you for this most prestigious award.
Thank you, Will. You got the podium? Okay.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you to Rocky for all you do for the National Guard. In 2010, the National Guard Educational Foundation and Leonardo DRS came together to forge a monumental partnership. A partnership that would go on to have meaningful impact on scores of National Guard families. The Leonardo DRS Guardian Scholarship Fund was established to award substantial college scholarships to the children of National Guard members lost in the global war on terror since 9/11. Most of us have fleeting memories from our early childhood. Maybe a trip to the zoo, or a piggyback ride from dad, an ice cream on a hot summer day. Most of these memories include our parents. Imagine having no memory of a parent. Imagine forging a relationship with your parent through a photograph. Imagine everything you know about your parent is what others have told you. How funny they were, how caring they were, how brave they were. This is a reality for many of our scholarship recipients. Their mom or dad was lost when they were merely months old. Fast forward 17 or 18 years, they've grown up, are ready to begin their adult lives, and are ready to take the next step in their educational pursuits. The National Guard Educational Foundation has been there for them through the Leonardo DRS Guardian Scholarship Fund, a living tribute, a legacy to their fallen parent. As of this year, the fund's 13th year, Leonardo DRS has donated nearly $700,000 for this initiative, and we have awarded more than 110 scholarships. Thanks to the incredible generosity of Leonardo DRS and their sustained commitment to Guard families, the fund has always been and will continue to be administered by the National Guard Educational Foundation at no cost. What this means is 100%, every single dime goes directly to the children of our fallen heroes. Thank you to Leonardo DRS for being our partner over these past 13 years. I know you're all as proud as we are of our collective impact. We are eternally grateful, and you have set the bar in how we honor fallen guardsmen and blaze a trail for a new era. As we look forward, we're overjoyed to share that we're going to continue offering these scholarships thanks to a new partner and benefactor. USAA was founded in 1922 by a group of military officers and is among the leading providers of insurance, banking, investment, and retirement solutions for more than 13 million members of the U.S. military, veterans who have honorably served, and their families. In fact, more than 85% of those of us in this hall have a relationship with USAA. They love the Guard. USAA has been our partner for decades, stepping up every time they're asked. And once again, they've stepped up in a big way. The USAA Guardian Scholarship Fund will be established in 2024 and will continue to offer $25,000 scholarships to the children of guardsmen who've made the ultimate sacrifice. Please join me in welcoming to the stage 25-year Air Force veteran Mike Kelly, Assistant Vice President of Military Advocacy for USAA.
Wow. Good morning, everybody. Thanks, NGAUS, for the opportunity for USAA to continue our support and deepen this relationship that we so enjoy through this sponsorship of the Guardian Scholarship Fund. Special thanks to Leonardo DRS for their commitment for practically and passionately supporting this fund for the past 13 years. That is incredible commitment, and we thank you for that. Your leadership and your commitment to this noble cause is greatly appreciated, and we at USAA take this mantle of responsibility very proudly. USAA's commitment to the National Guard Educational Foundation enhances our existing relationship with NGAUS, which includes an affinity agreement, multiple Legion de Lafayette, continuous support by Dick Smith. I think some of you might know Dick Smith, our Guard representative, and our military affairs teams throughout each of the states where you are represented. USAA is not only committed to the 450,000 currently serving National Guard members, families, and retirees, but the entire military community. You heard a little bit about our history in 1922, formed by the military to serve the military. And this commitment to serve goes beyond the products and services that we offer. There's probably, what you said, 85% of the folks in here this morning are USA members. Thank you for your membership and for your service. But I think we volunteer in our communities to support wounded warriors, help with transitioning service members find civilian careers, and we're there to advocate and support the military community. We're committed to driving impact through our corporate responsibility contributions, employee donations, as well as volunteer hours. Last year, we contributed more than $47 million through our philanthropic efforts at USA to support the military community. Thank you. Thank you. That's something we're very proud of and very eager to continue. And employees gave more than 300,000 volunteer hours to support military organizations in our military communities. This year, we're excited to announce a new initiative. Some of you may have heard about it. We were in Washington, D.C., and General Milley was our keynote speaker to announce what we call the Face the Fight initiative. Face the Fight is a coalition of corporations, foundations, nonprofit, and veteran-focused organizations joining together to raise awareness and support for veteran suicide prevention, something that I know we can all get behind. Our mission is really to break the stigmas surrounding suicide in order to open up the conversation and support around this topic. Facing the reality of veteran suicide is a struggle, but when people face this fight together, there is hope. And that's what we're really wanting to bring to this community. Through this initiative, our aspiration is to cut the veteran suicide rate by 50% by 2030. We already have more than 50 organizations signed up to be part of the coalition. We've got hundreds in the wings waiting. If anyone is interested, you can go to wefacethefight.org and let us know if you're interested in participating as a supporter or as a contributor. We currently have about $40 million in a donor-advised fund that we are focusing toward clinical and evidence-based solutions to help prevent suicide. Thanks again for the opportunity to be here with you. Thanks again for the opportunity to serve the Guard community and your family members through this scholarship fund. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. We're so honored to be able to expand our relationship through the USA Guardian Scholarship Fund. To Leonardo DRS and USAA, thank you on behalf of the fallen National Guardsmen whom you honor. And thank you to all of our supporters and donors. Because of you, we can continue to fulfill our mission. Please visit us when you're in our nation's capital and join us in telling the Guard's story, a uniquely American story. We're your museum, your library, and your archive. Cannot raise awareness and educate the public about our continuing contributions without you. We hope that our efforts continue to inspire your involvement and support. Mr. Chairman, this concludes the National Guard Educational Foundation's report.
Thank you, Will. Thank you, Will. Will Roulette. And again to Rocky and Mark Dean and USAA Mike Kelly, thank you all for your remarks this morning. We appreciate it. Thank you for being here. Okay, at this point, I think the chair recognizes the Sergeant at Arms.
The Sergeant at Arms announces the presence in the chamber of General Randy A. George, the Vice Chief of Staff of the Army, acting as the Chief of Staff of the Army, and the Sergeant Major of the Army, Michael R. Weimer. They are escorted by Lieutenant General John A. Jensen, the Director of the Army National Guard, Major General Jimmy Cole, the Deputy Adjutant General of Tennessee, and the NGAUS Vice Chair Army, and Major General John C. Harris, the Adjutant General of Ohio, and the President of the Adjutants General Association of the United States.
Sir, it's an honor to be here. Okay. It's great to be here, sir.
Please take seats. We're joined today by the senior officer of our Army. General George has held that distinction for only about 2 weeks, and at this point in time, it involves doing 2 jobs. That he would take the time to travel across the country to be with us today says a lot about General George, and it also says a lot about what he thinks about you. And he brought a guest. Seated here in the front, his spouse, Miss Patty George. Where are you, Miss George? Thank you for being here with us. For those of you who may not know, she is also a West Point graduate. General George and Sergeant Major Weimer, we want to welcome both of you to our conference, the National Guard Association of the United States. Sir, the podium is yours. Thank you for being here.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it. Okay, everybody hear me? All right, good morning. I felt a little bit like walking in late for church with everybody looking at you coming in here with all of that. So a real honor for me to be here. And first, Durr, thank you very much, and for you and the board for having me out. So there's nothing more important, I think, than being here this weekend. So really appreciate you having us. I also want to thank I've been out a little bit in the floor, the Nevada National Guard for putting all this together, and Andra, General Barry, thank you so much. I know from you have 10 people over to stay at your house, what a pain in the butt that can be, so I can't imagine having 2,000 guests, so really well done. I know my teammates, I got General Jensen who's here. I think Mike Lowe is out there in the audience, and General Hokanson, and it's good to see them somewhere other than the halls of the Pentagon. So good to see you guys. What I didn't, the only thing I'm a little bit frustrated about is that about 15 minutes ago, General Jensen told me, asked me if I could stick around tonight, and I said, no, my plans are already, I have to fly out of here. And he says, well, too bad. Tonight's the most fun night that we're gonna have. So I told him, I said, John, that would have been really helpful information to have maybe before tonight, or before today when we were talking about it. So I understand Guam and Puerto Rico out there. So next year, I'm staying for hospitality night. All right. So I've got 45 minutes. I just asked General Jensen, I said 2 hours. He said, no, 45 minutes. I'm gonna take probably about 22 minutes of that time and talk to you a little bit about where I think the Army's going, and then I want to take your questions. And everybody heard, I've got about 2 weeks under my belt. I will tell you that I will be straightforward with you. If I can't answer something, then I got all kinds of experts up here that can help me with all that. But I want to talk real quick. My first visit that I actually made after the change of responsibility was to Camp Grayling. And I'd heard a lot about, and I'm going to talk about that for a few minutes. I'd heard a lot about Northern Strike and people talking about it, and I'm like, hey, I got to get up there. My memory of Northern Strike, I was a lieutenant in the 101st, and I went up in July with just a poncho liner and remember freezing my ass off up there in the middle of the summer. But what I saw up there was super impressive and very refreshing. I don't know if we got experts. I had a chance to fire with the Bangarang crew, which were absolute experts, and they were just so motivated. Out of the 222nd Field Artillery Battalion. We got anybody here from Utah? All right, a couple of them over there. I got to see, there's 71 units that were up there. Got to see a lot of engaged and innovative leaders and soldiers. Couple shout outs to the 294th MCAS was up there out of Iowa, my home state. Anybody here from Iowa? All right. The 115th ESB was up there training out of Alabama. Anybody here Roll Tide or anything like that? And the 232nd CSB out of Illinois. Where's Illinois at? All right. So I was super impressed up up there, and soldiers were motivated, leaders were motivated. And I remember telling Major General Paul Rogers, who's up there, and that's the next thing, and I told him, I said, I'm really super impressed by this training event at the end of the day. I'd heard a lot about Northern Strike, and we were talking a little bit about, hey, what's the secret sauce? And I thought that, in my opinion, the secret sauce was that he built an environment where he actually let leaders plan their training, and then he did the hard job of trying to figure out how he could stitch all that together and make it better. So I know that we got anybody from Michigan out here? All right, super impressive out there for that training event, and my hat's off to General Rogers and his team. You know, I was impressed, but I wasn't surprised, and I tell a lot of people I've spent from my time when I was a lieutenant and training together back in the late 80s and early 90s, I have deployed a whole bunch, and I think every time I've deployed, I've had National Guard soldiers that are right there inside my formation. I remember being a battalion commander with the Pennsylvania National Guard up in the heart and the central part of Iraq, with the Georgia Guard. Anybody in here from Georgia? With the Georgia Guard in Afghanistan. And then again, when I deployed as a division commander, a very big part of our headquarters that went over with us, and real experts when it came to intel and cyber and all of that, with just a wealth of experience, were deployed with me. I've also had a lot of experience with and seen the power of state partnerships on Atlantic Resolve as the First Corps commander and what's going on. And I know that we're looking, and General Hokanson, the whole team, looking to expand those, but very, very powerful for our country, not just our military. So again, my experiences, I've been impressed, was impressed, but I'm not surprised by that. I could spend some time talking about the strategic environment. I think the one thing I tell everybody is that it's as complex and dangerous as I've seen it in the time that I've been in uniform, and we could have a real long discussion on that, but I don't think I need to go into any more detail. Everybody in here knows that. And one of the things that I think has changed the most is just how the character of war has changed over the last 2 years. And a lot of that, and I'll talk about it in a few minutes, with what we're seeing in Ukraine and some of the lessons learned that are coming out of that. But I also want to remind everybody, we look at this, we have a lot of discussions about what's going on with our Army and our total Army, our multi-compo Army, and people will talk about the Europe and they'll talk about the Pacific and all those threats that are out there. Is that I know our Army is a global Army. And we're going to have to be ready to go wherever we're going to go. And wherever we go, it's going to be a multi-compo solution. It's always been that way for our Army. You can look back in our history, and it will continue to be, and probably increasingly continue to be that way. In World War II, the U.S. Army had 31 divisions in the Pacific. 31 divisions, and a lot of people don't remember a lot of that. And if a lot of you out there in your units look back at your history and your heritage, you will see that a lot of your units were out there fighting in there, and I just mentioned that one specific theater. So our Army has to be ready. We will be ready. I'm confident that we'll be ready, and we're going to have to be ready as a total Army as we move forward. So we'll have 4 focus areas, and I want to talk to you about those 4 focus areas this morning. I'll list them out to start off. The first is warfighting. Focus area number 1 is warfighting. The second is deliver ready combat formations. That's the second. The third is continuous transformation. And the fourth is, and I'll say this again and several times probably, the one that underpins everything is what we can do to strengthen the profession of arms. All of us are professionals, and we need to be thinking about doing, that's what professionals do, whatever they can to continue to make their profession stronger and better. So I'll start with warfighting. And I'm going to have a lot of conversations with this, and I'm reminded when I was BCT commander, division commander, we used to have a lot of discussions about if there's something that you're doing that's not contributing to you being more lethal or more cohesive, then we got to really take a hard look at if we should be doing it. And that is a conversation that I think we have to have at Echelon. There's no big, people that say, hey, are we going to put out, are we not going to do this, are we not going to do that? And I think that we have to do that. We have to have those discussions at every level. And they're going to be different at every level. Sometimes we're going to have to do certain missions because we know they need to be done. And for all of you, it may be at the state level or wherever it's at, we're going to have to do some of those missions. But I think we have to take a hard look at that. And that's part of what we should be doing with training management that we need to really focus on. I mean, what we want are trained, fit, disciplined, cohesive, and lethal teams. If we have that in our Army, we are here to fight. That's why we have a U.S. Army. Then we're doing the right thing. The other thing I've heard a lot of discussions about when people ask me, hey, are we brigade-centric or division-centric? I always tell everybody that the Army has to fight at echelon. We have to, there's going to be a lot of missions out there where we're not just brigade-centric or division-centric. We're going to have to deploy capability and be able to fight at several echelons. And we are going to talk about that and train that and make sure that that's part of our doctrine. We're doing it right now. We're doing it in the Pacific where we're training. It may not be specifically division-centric, and I can give you examples where we have battalions out with maybe securing core enablers and other things for logistics that are enabling our campaign over there. And then the last piece, and there'll be more, but on warfighting, one of my frustrations is what it takes to train higher echelon. So you get higher at like brigade and division and corps to actually do collective training, which is important that you're doing that. It's very difficult to do that without having a significant cost to the units that are below you. And I think we have to fix that. We've got to figure out with the simulations that we have and also looking at layering some of our events together, how we can reduce that burden on our units so that they can continue to train what their wartime missions are. I was just out at NTC yesterday. We're looking at rotations. We've done a couple, but how do we look at getting divisions there that actually can train as part of that? And we have the terrain that's down there to do that, and we can fall in there and potentially do warfighters as a part of it. So that's warfighting. The second is we're going to have to deliver ready combat power. I've assigned Army Material Command to take a look at this. I'm going to go down just a couple of things that we're looking at. But the first one, and I hope everybody here appreciates it, is we have to reinforce commanders at every level and get them the authorities that they need, because every installation, every state has different challenges, different problems. And I always say if you're going to go to Alaska or down to Irwin or Camp Shelby, Mississippi, all of those are different. They're different missions, and we need to make sure that they have different resources to handle the problems that they need to be ready for their missions. And so we need to take a look at that, and that's part of, I think, powering down. Some of that goes to streamlining services. There's a lot of services that we have, I would say, accumulated over the past 20 years. Do we need all of those? And we need to give commanders locally say, hey, I don't need this one particularly, but I would like to invest in something else, like H2F as an example. So there are other things that I think that we can do. We are working very hard back in the building with Mr. Bush at ASALT, really everybody back there, what we can do to improve our industrial base. And we've made some significant gains. We can talk about that in the question and answer as far as what we're doing. 155 is a good example, but we have to take this opportunity right now to continue to invest in that and improve it and bring that forward. The other thing I think we need to look at on delivering ready combat power is predictive maintenance. And I always use the example, and I grew up in farm country where, now you have the ability through predictive maintenance to tell you when you need to service a vehicle. And so we are in the process right now of reviewing that. My personal opinion from when I was a commander is we service too much. And I think that also that what that does is it's very taxing on the units to be able to do that. So we're taking a look at that. I also think we have to look at how we do inventories. I'm always reminded when if you go into a Walmart and you ask them, you know, they're great big and they got a huge warehouse, they can basically inventory that overnight. And then we have company commanders that will take 2 weeks to lay things out. So I know we can use what we have available right now through our commercial partners to figure out something to do that. Because again, the most valuable thing that we have, especially for our young leaders, is time. So that's delivering ready combat power, ready combat formations. The third is continuous transformation. And I mentioned up front how the character war is changing, and you know we're seeing this in Ukraine. And for all the leaders out there, you know you can plug in back. We have various levels of lessons that we're looking at right now, whether they're unclassified, classified, or all the way up. But we're learning a ton. The battlefield is changing and changing quickly. And if you just look on the open source and what's happening with unmanned systems, unmanned aerial systems, counter UAS that is needed to defend against that. In some ways, we're going back, when I hear some of the TTPs, there's some things like camouflage and using a lot of the things that some of us grew up in the 90s talking about that we're going to have to bring back in TTPs. But there are a lot of things out there that we're going to have to change how we do business. And the biggest part of these lessons learned is when we talk about it back in the building, and I think this applies to all of us here, is that there's a difference between a lesson observed, which, hey, look, this is happening, we need to do something, and a lesson learned. And what I've challenged the team to do is to make sure that we're going back and how is that getting into our schoolhouses? How is our professional military education changing so that we're getting after what those lessons are? What are we doing to change our acquisition processes if we need to change our acquisition process to do that? And then what are we doing at the unit level? So some of those techniques, tactics, and procedures that I'm talking about, how are we passing that down to make sure that our leaders out there, as they're training, understand what's happening? You take one of our rifle platoons out there that may have one Raven, one UAS, and I think that we're going to have to change. There's going to be multiple, and we're going to have everybody inside of a formation, and probably regardless of what type of formation you are, that's going to have to understand how to use those systems to make us more survivable and more lethal on the battlefield. The other thing I want to talk about is moving complexity up. So I've been out several times. I saw this when I was at Grayling. Was also this week, went down to Bliss to the 1st Armored Division and then out to NTC. And we need to reduce complexity. And what I mean by complexity, this is mainly in the network. And I've been working this as the vice for the last year with the under very hard on C2 on what we can do to fix that. And the example is you can't have somebody roll in with 10 vehicles and 50 Pelican cases and set up all kinds of antennas, and that's your C2 node. Besides the visual signal that you're going to have, you're going to spike on EW. It's going to be very easy to target any C2 node that's out there. And so what we have to do and what we're working on is reducing the complexity and passing that up a little bit to the larger formations that aren't going to move. We want lean, mobile, and very mobile formations really at the brigade level and below. And I think we can do that. And I'll give you an example of one of the things that we're working on. I brought it with me, don't have it up here today, but the technology exists right now for a commander to be in the back of a vehicle, have a tablet, have his fire support officer, his intel officer, his ops officer next to him, and they are looking at the same common operating picture, same common intel picture with access to joint fires and the things that they need. They can be moving along and basically blending in with a lot of off-the-shelf technology that we have for transport. They could move into a building, they could be up on Wi-Fi inside of a building, and basically plug that into a small projector, and that whole unit would have that picture. And that's what we got to trade out for those 25 or 30 Pelican cases, because the technology exists to do that right now, and we got to move to that. It's going to make us more mobile. It's going to reduce our logistics footprint. It's going to do all kinds of things to help us out. So that's continuous transformation. The last is strengthening the profession, and really for us, that underpins everything that we do. And as all of us in here, and there's many in here that have been in the Army a long time like I have, know what you've gotten from leaders through the years. And I remember back being a company commander, and the infantry, armor, and field artillery magazines, when they came out, those things were like gold to me. And I looked at those and I collected them up, and usually there was always articles in them, like from another company commander and first sergeant team, and they talked about how they had screwed up a training meeting. And of course, I was immediately like, okay, I want to read that. I want to find out what's going on I can learn from. But we were sharing lessons and people were writing things. And I think that that's critically important for our profession, that we're actually having a professional dialogue inside of our profession, inside of our journals, and we're making those available and we're learning from each other. So there's going to be a big push for that. General Brito and I are getting ready we're working on rolling something out on that here in the next month or month and a half. The other thing, last, and there's a lot to strengthen the profession of arms, but I think we got to get after discipline and standards. This discipline and standards are the reason that we are going to be successful in battle. It is the foundation of any good unit, is discipline and standards. And I want every commander, and I've had a lot of conversations about this. The SMA and I were just out at PCC talking to commanders across all compos that, hey, we have your back. We trust commanders out there. We know you're doing the right thing, and I think that that's the environment that we got to have to make sure that we're doing that. And again, you don't just turn the switch on when you deploy, and there's a lot of folks in here who have deployed and know that. You build that inside your unit when you train. You build it when you're back in your armories or your company costs. That is not something you can just decide to do, and I think we have to get after discipline and standards. I'll close it up here. National Guard is nearly 40% of our operational force. So like I said up front, we're not doing anything as an Army. We're going to do all of this together. I know that there's some headwinds that the Army is facing. Talk to General Hokanson and General Jensen. We're going to get together and figure out how to tackle those problems together. That's exactly what we need to do. It's exactly what we would be doing when we deploy downrange, and it's exactly what we're going to do as we continue to transform. We're all going to have to transform. I'm really proud of the National Guard, and I look. I don't know if Washington is in here. If General Brett Doherty, I haven't seen him since I left First Corps. Washington in here? I was so impressed when I was out at First Corps with what they were doing, and any little thing that I could do to help that they were responding to, and it was COVID and January 6th. I mean, the list goes on that a lot of you are out there doing that are responding to things, and it's impressive. And I think it's like I tell everybody, the Army is busy as ever, and the Guard is as busy as ever that I've seen it. And we were just talking about that. It's hard to believe you'd have said a couple of years ago that you could be busier, but I think we're busier than we have been. So my hat's off to all of you. You do all that while you are important and valuable members of your community. We appreciate that, and I think that that's a strength I certainly value, and I know leaders who've been around and operated with you certainly value. General Milley and General McConville have had a great relationship with the Guard. I look forward to having an incredible relationship with the Guard. Again, big part of our Army, and thankful to be here, and I'm ready to take your questions. No questions? You let me off the hook?
Sir?
Okay.
Captain Rogo, Georgia Army National Guard. Sir, could you please elaborate on the role that National Guard will play alongside with the active duty component going forward in competing with and defeating our nation's enemies?
Absolutely. I mean, like I said up front, I don't think there's anything that we're doing. You look what's happened in, where we're operating over in UCOM, and we're going to be deploying together. I can give you countless examples of what we're doing, and a lot of this is just campaigning back in the Middle East, what we're doing right now to operate, what we have going on for state partnership programs and exercises that are happening all around the globe. So everywhere that I'm going, I just was talking, I'm going to Europe here soon about all the things that are going on. So I think that's going to continue to happen. A big thing, what I'm talking about, that we have to look at going forward is how we transform. If the National Guard's 40% of our operational force, you don't go anywhere with only 60% of your team. We're going to need everybody and figure out exactly how we need to be organized to make sure that we go forward. I'm used to that because that's been what I've seen over the last 20 years, and I think it's going to continue to do that. The real challenge that I have commented on a bunch that for the Guard, there's also an increase in what you're being asked to do in your Title 32 status. And so I think we have to, that's difficult as well with us. Like I said, the Guard is busy, busy, busy. Did I answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good morning, sir. Captain Duplessis from the Idaho National Guard. Are you in favor of returning to the APFT as the test of record? And what concerns do you have of the implications of another multi-year transition between tests when it comes to the readiness of a fit force?
Yeah. So I like the ACFT. And I tell everybody nobody wants to be told you're going to get a new uniform and a new PT test at 32 years in service. So I wasn't excited about that. But I like the ACFT, and when I was the Corps Commander, it was something that we did, and we were still using slightly different standards. Every Wednesday we got together and we did that. It was great to come together. It's changing our PT culture, and I think we've learned a lot about what we need to do over the last 20, 30, 40 years. The science is a lot better, and so I'm a fan of the ACFT. So we're working through that on the ACFT. As we move forward. The APFT was great. If I lived through, there's probably several in here lived through this as well, where the APFT changed and adjusted, and I think that's what we're going to have to do with the ACFT. I'm going to also turn this over to the Sergeant Major of the Army. He may have a thought on this as well. I can hear you, but I don't know if, no.
How about now? Nothing? Okay, I don't want to waste any time, so we're absolutely staying with the ACFT. Absolutely. The vice hit on it. I mean, we are changing the culture of fitness in the total Army, right? And it's a journey. There was a staff sergeant at Rochester, Minnesota, from your formation that asked the same question, except she actually quoted the NDA. She almost went like paragraph and line. Incredibly impressive. And she said, it would do harm if we went backwards, and I've seen the change. I was incredibly proud of that staff sergeant because she's spot on. And so we're staying the course.
Good morning, General. My name is Andrew Zaplicki. I'm an AGR officer assigned at the Virginia National Guard. As you stated, the National Guard has been mobilized and deployed at an unprecedented pace for the last 20 years, with little increases to our full-time force compared to the level of the workload. The only two units resourced at 100% in the Virginia Guard is our recruiting battalion and our civil support team. The lack of full-time soldiers in our formations hurts readiness and degrades interoperability between the different components. There's just so much work and not enough hands. Given the challenges of resourcing across the components, what is your view on resourcing the total Army team to be more interoperable in today's environment?
Yeah, thank you for that question. We were just having a discussion about that this morning, and had a bunch of discussions about that. So part of this is that I think we're going to have to take a close look at this, exactly what we're doing. And this gets to where we've been with force structure going down and then coming back up. A lot of the things that we're talking about also with full-time support is where do we have the full-time support, and given a lot of the missions that are Title 32. So I don't have an exact answer for you right now. I've heard this a bunch. I think this is something that we need to get together and figure out together as a family. That was one of the discussions that we had. That we have to figure out what the right answer is. And it may look different. That's the other thing that, I said in my comments. It may be slightly different in Virginia than it is in somewhere else. And I go to places that have maybe a MOB site or other things. So I think that we have to put all that into the equation and figure it out. So I know this has been a conversation because I've heard this a little bit as the vice and increasingly now, is that we have to get together, I think, and figure this out. Certainly the intent is not to make things more painful on folks. That's not what we're about. To the larger part of this all gets down to budget. And we spend a lot of time talking about this back in the building and figuring that out. And the other pieces that we all have to figure out then are what are the trades. It's like my own personal budget. I have a personal budget. I'm going to be able to afford one thing or the other. But we have to look at full-time support, and I think we have to do that together and then have a conversation about it with a lot of the other stakeholders that are involved with it. I'm going to ask if General Jensen, do you want to make any comments on that?
Thanks, Vice, for that. Hey, great question. Absolutely. From my perspective, and if you haven't had a chance, I recommend you pick up the current NGAUS magazine, because I believe I have an article in that touches this exact point, is that, when you look back at our full-time manning model, it predates 9/11. What we were asked to do pre-9/11, significantly different than what we're being asked to do the last 20 years or even the last couple of years. And I'm not sure, I'll say it a little bit stronger. I am convinced that the pre-9/11 model doesn't fit the post-9/11 Army. As the Vice laid out, the Army is going to need all three compos going forward. There is no scenario going forward where one of the compos gets left behind, because we need the whole Army to do what our nation is asking us to do. And as a result, I think we have to take a very hard look at that full-time manning model to make sure that, one, we're not putting too much stress on our full-time force, which I would argue we have, and two, we're not leaving capability or capacity behind unintentionally, right? As the Vice laid out, this is all about a risk equation. Hey, what can I afford versus what do I really need to do? What is that risk? But I think what I hear General George talking about is we need to revisit this and discuss the risk across the Army. And so, Vice, I can tell you, we look forward to that conversation and we'll fully support that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Good morning, General. Colonel Fonseca here, Illinois Army National Guard. Sir, you partially answered my question earlier, but I want to fine-tune a little bit. I just returned from Poland from a 2-year command as the garrison commander for the newly established garrison up there in our partner nation, Poland. And given the finite resources, the garrison is comprised primarily of Compo 2 and 3 soldiers, but the divisional rotation forces are active duty. And I guess my question is, do you foresee a future where the guard units are plugged into the rotational pool, the divisional units? Over.
So we're, part of this gets to be is to 12304 Bravo. I think when we're looking longer term, when things stay the same, it's a little bit easier. So yes, I would see, longer term rotations. It's easier if you're going to do something in the time of need immediately, typically to take somebody from the active component. So, and we'll see where we go with EUCOM right now. Again, as I think you've heard us all say up here, it's going to be whatever solution that we're going to provide, it's going to be a total Army solution because it needs to be. And because there's a lot of capability in the Guard that they can bring that will be unique and will be required that's over there.
Thank you,
So
sir.
I'm looking forward to getting over there and seeing the last, it's been a couple years since I've been over to Poland. Thank you.
Good morning, sir. Captain Justin Rudin, Charlie Battery, 1st of the 111 Field Artillery, Virginia Army National Guard. My question to you is, what do you see as the future of towed artillery, especially given everything that we've learned with Ukraine?
Yeah, so one of the things on, for Ukraine, the big thing, you basically just implied that, is that you're going to have to be able to move very quickly, and you're going to be located. So they have used the 777s very well. I think we found that out. One of the big lessons that I've looked at is that U.S. equipment works really well and is very lethal, and I think everybody's figuring that out. But that's one of the things we're looking at right now. General Rainey, who's who's leading Army Futures Command, is actually doing a fires study. So we've done a lot, and we've done long-range fires. We're actually studying fires in the formation to see what we need really to make sure we're good at echelon with equipment. I've deployed with 777s, didn't want to go anywhere outside of their range, wanted to have them always available. And I think what you're implying is, are we looking at something like a mobile, a system that we can use, a wheeled system, and I think we're looking at all of that.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, good morning. Lieutenant Taylor Payne from Washington State. Question I have for you is, we talk about modernization of forces and moving from coin to LISCO. What is the biggest roadblocks that you view, especially as Compo 2 and all Compos, to train our forces to prepare them for that modernization efforts, whether it be logistic-based, institutional, NTC rotations and stuff like that?
Well, I think we're doing that. We've been down that road on, adjusting to those kinds of things. And what I tell everybody is that you're going to have to be, I think units at every level are going to have to be ready for the spectrum of conflict. So when I deployed over my platoons and companies that were deploying over in Afghanistan, for example, and they were up in Kunar, they were doing, what I would say at that level on the light infantry side, very high end. They were in firefights, calling in indirect, using close air support, combat aviation, and doing all of those things. I think the biggest adjustment that we need to make is broader than that. There are some that I mentioned that we have to change as far as the environment, EW. We weren't worried about, we own the skies. We weren't worried about being targeted. We're not going to go anywhere anymore where somebody's not going to see everything that we have that's on the battlefield. And I think that's a different way of thinking, I think, at that level. So there's little adjustments I think we need to make there. And I think that they get a little more broader as you move up. And we're going to have to do that at our training centers. We're going to have to talk about that at home station. It's probably have not been, you take the Expeditionary Signal Battalion that I was talking about, they weren't thinking about those kinds of things. They're now going to be potentially facing UAS and targeting as well. So that's what I was talking about when I'm talking about strengthening the profession, is that we're all sharing those kinds of things as well before. So it's not just happening in the dirt when we're training at CTCs. We can start learning that through PME, through leader professional development, and all the things that we're doing.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, good morning. Lieutenant Colonel Chris Ish, the Oklahoma Army National Guard, currently serving with Army Futures Command. Sir, you talked about re-looking at the Army acquisition process and the good work that's going on with ASALT. Can you speak a little bit more to that, especially as we're looking at potential of a long-term CR and some of the other issues like confirmations, and how that's going to play into the near term for our modernization?
Yeah, first, we obviously don't want a continuing resolution, and all that would do to stop what were new starts and R&D and all of those kinds of things. So, separately to the acquisition piece, and I've mentioned this probably not more broadly, but my thought is we need colorless money, and what I mean by that is that I think if you're down there in a CFT that things are going to change real rapidly, and maybe we had something that was a certain color of money that we were supposed to spend, and we need to be able to rapidly transition it to as technology is changing, to spend it on something else. I think we could do that, for example, in the counter UAS, we could do that in specific programs. I also think, and we're working a bunch of this right now with munitions, is that there's a certain aspect of multi-year that I think would help us as well. So that we would have, let's say we have money for the network or money for UAS or counter UAS that we could use over a period of time and not have to worry about, you know, using it at all at a specific period within a fiscal year.
Thanks, sir.
Good morning, sir. Captain
morning.
Meeker with the Washington National Guard. My question relates to generating ready forces and maintenance. Many of us grew up and had experiences throughout 20 years of GWAT of falling in on equipment or swelling OCO funding in order to produce maintenance at the last minute. What are the assumptions that you think need to change, both at the total force and within Compo 2, about generating combat power as it relates to how we maintain our formations?
So some of it is you have a little bit, if we reduce the complexity of our units and you have less stuff to maintain, that obviously helps. Because I think people are struggling, you know, with that. It'd be like me having 3 different cars and trying to figure that out. So I think that's one that will help a little bit, and we've grown a lot, I think, with the number of vehicles. The other thing, like I mentioned, is getting rid of some of is actually being able to tell you when you need to do the maintenance on the vehicle and being a little bit more predictive. I think we can do better at using the technology that's out there. I can list companies. You know, I'm from farm country, so John Deere, you know, you can, Massey, you name whatever company that's out there, that I think that we have the ability to help with that. And then the other aspect, it gets to just training our leaders. This gets to strengthening the profession. You get good at things by having leaders that are there teaching you and training you and making sure that we have the right tempo. One of the things that I talked about a lot as a brigade, division, and corps commander that is important, I think, to every one of us out here is predictability, and that really starts with training management and figuring that kind of stuff out and figuring out where everything lays. So we all have a piece and a part to that. We know that things are going to come up they're going to ask our Army to do that are unexpected, but we shouldn't be shooting ourselves in the foot with things that aren't because we're not professionally prepared.
Thank you, sir.
Morning, sir. Captain Moore from the Virginia Air National Guard. You talk a lot about modernization and interoperability. So my question to you is, what are your thoughts and perspective on how we get after modernization, interoperability, and training across the joint force?
Yeah, so all the stuff that I'm talking about with the network, if you heard me talk about the network, we got to make the network, this is JADC2 at the larger level, and we're talking about that. We are getting ready, when we go out, for example, to Project Convergence, and that'll be total Army that's going to be out there. That will also be the Air Force, that will also be the Marines. You heard me mention there's no such thing as a maritime theater or an air theater. They're joint theaters, and there's land and all of that, so we're going to have to operate together. So the more we can do that, we do that a little bit at our CTCs. I think we're doing better at our exercises at getting after that. I think the network and command and control is one of the most important aspects of getting that right. I'm getting the rhythm here. I turn a little to the right.
Good morning, sir. Major Mark Timmons from Oregon Army National Guard. I have a question in regards to recruiting and the efforts the Army is looking at. So in the first 5 months, from some information I saw, the recruiting ribbon generated about 100 opportunities for people to receive that. But the soldier referral bonus program back in 2005 and 6 in the first 5 months generated 5,000 enlistments. So is the Army looking at something new to help get us out of this recruiting slump beyond a ribbon?
I would say yes, we are, and if you can stick around afterwards, if you got any ideas you think we're missing, I'd be happy to hear them. So yes, I do think we're doing a lot of things, and it's like I am dealing with recruiting Sergeant Major of the Army, the Secretary of the Army. This is something we talk about. There's probably not a day that goes by that I'm not sending an email, talking on the phone about something with this. And we've gone through some adjustments in the last couple of years. The demographics are not, there's less 17 to 25-year-olds. More people are struggling passing the ASVAB. More people are struggling with the height weight standard. So we're trying to figure out how we need to maintain our standards, and we're going to. How do we get people into that? So that's Future Soldier Prep Course. I don't know if you've heard of that. That's working really well. We are, I think, looking at how we adjust our marketing and how we get after things. How are we picking our recruiters? Are we selecting the right recruiters? Are we giving them the right tools? The Secretary and I had asked a separate team, so I could give you a pretty long list of what we're doing, and I described them as, not all on the margins, but trying to make, process improvement. And we're in the process right now of actually looking at some bold changes that we're getting ready to talk about doing and adjusting. But it's going to be a tough market out there. Unemployment is low. So, I think we're all in this together. We want the all-volunteer Army is, I think, what's made us great over the last 50 years. And anybody has any ideas on that, we're all ears.
Thank you, sir.
Can I mention one more thing on the recruiting? Because I always tell everybody, I think it's important that we all tell our story about why we're in the military. I always tell my story, and I was influenced. I couldn't afford to go to college, so I had there was a Korean War veteran who said, "Hey, you should join the Army." I wanted I wanted money for college, and whatever reason there is out there that people come in, I find that most people stay because of what you have right here. It's the camaraderie, the people that you're around, and the mission. And so I think all of us, I don't care what compo anybody wants to be in, I don't think we should be competing either. And there needs to be better permeability between all of our compos moving forward. But whatever you can do to tell that story and get your story and get people out, I think will be helpful to us. I think this is the last question.
Thank you for your talk, sir. My name is Captain Furman, Kansas Army National Guard. My question, if you'll forgive me, is do you believe that congressional impasse on promotions harms our military readiness? And if so, can we as private individuals or as an organization here at NGAUS do to help?
Okay. It's been great being with you all this morning. I'll just tell you this: what you always want to do is field. You want to field a full team when you get whatever it is, and so that's the challenge that we're working through. What I'm also, what I'm most concerned about is that people looking at this, down will go, hey, I don't want to, that it has impact on people that may want to stick around. And I'm also concerned, obviously, about families that can't move and can't do those kinds of things. What I'm confident about, though, also is the Army is really good at figuring out how to get shit done and bring everybody together. So I think we'll do that. It'd be nice to get this moved behind us so that we could have a field the full team that's on there. In the meantime, we're going to get after it. Thank you. Thanks, sir. Appreciate it.
I have a gift for you.
Okay.
That's okay. Sir, on behalf of the National Guard Association of the United States, I have a gift for both you and Sergeant Major of the Army, Weimer. We want to thank you both for being here to answer our questions and address our group. It is a National Guard Association commemorative ornament, holiday ornament, that commemorates the participation of the National Guard divisions on June 6, 1944 at D-Day. So, sir, thank you for your comments. Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you.
We really appreciate you, sir.
Is there an invite to next year's hospitality?
We'll be there.
All right.
I hope you'll be
Thank
there.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It means a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
My dad.
We're going to grab my paper.
Sergeant Vargas, if you'll please escort the general off the stage. Thank you.
The Sergeant at Arms announces the presence in the chamber of United States Representative Trent Kelly of Mississippi, the Republican co-chair of the House National Guard and Reserve Caucus. He is escorted by retired Brigadier General J. Roy Robinson, the NGAUS President, Chief Warrant Officer 5, Donnie Dukes, the President of the National Association of Mississippi, and Alan McDaniel II, the Executive Director of the National Guard Association of Mississippi.
Will the Sergeant at Arms escort our distinguished guest and his party to the platform? Yeah, please take seats. Please take seats. I'll be brief, but I think it's important that we recognize a friend of this National Guard Association for over the entire career that he's been in the National Guard. We are joined today by a friend of everyone seated here today, and also a personal friend of mine, Trent Kelly. He's a member of the Mississippi National Guard currently, for those of you who don't know, and we just want to sort of give him some well-deserved recognition for all the work he's done, both as a soldier and as a congressman. The presentation of our association's highest honor, the presentation of the Harry S. Truman Award, today is presented to the Honorable Trent Kelly from the great state of Mississippi. Trent, will you join me downstage here?
I'm following you. You should never give a lawyer and a congressman a microphone and expect them to be held to 10 minutes. You know, I first want to start, I always choke up on this, my wife and my kids. And my wife has served for 32 of the 37 years I've served in the military and is a part of all my life. Also want to thank my father and my brother. My father's a retired first sergeant in the Mississippi National Guard, and my brother, Kevin, was a retired command sergeant major. So as an officer, I don't know how to act right, but I know what right looks like. I also want to thank my mother and my sister, who are huge parts of my Guard career. I want to thank General Bulls, Roy Robinson, Alan McDaniel, and my battle buddy, CW5, Donnie Dukes. I also want to thank the Nevada TAG, and I think I got that right, General Barry. What a great event and great, this is a great venue, but your National Guard has showed up and made this a wonderful venue and event, so thank you, General. In my congressional role, I want to thank General Hokanson, who I saw here earlier, and Lieutenant General Lowe and Lieutenant General Jensen, who are my battle buddies on the Hill and who are always in my office and other people's office fighting for the Guard equities in everything that we do. I want to thank Major General April Vogel, who is the OCLL two-star. She works tirelessly to make sure and fight for the equities that the Guard have. Would be remiss if I didn't mention my staff, Reed and Samaj, my former staffer, Roddy, who's now a state rep in Mississippi and also a Mississippi Guardsman, and Abby, who do all the hard work that I get credit for. I want to thank my co-chair of the National Guard Caucus, Andy Kim from New Jersey, who is the Democratic lead, and he has been a fighter for the National Guard, and I am very appreciative of him as my battle buddy on the Hill. But I want to just take a second to recognize probably the reason I'm in Congress and probably the reason I'm a general, and it was my congressman growing up, the great late G.V. Sonny Montgomery, Mr. National Guard, who is just, he is someone I aspire to be like, who showed me what it was like to be both a statesman and a soldier. And I hope that I can just bring a little bit of credit to him. The other things, we fight very hard on the Guard, and I want to thank every state and territory here, all 54. Let me tell you, our state partnership program, it has really come a long way, and you guys are making all kind of impacts around the globe by our state partnership program, so I thank everyone who does that. Short of that, I just can't say it's not a bigger honor than to get this award. I'm one of the few who's received this, and I am extremely humbled and grateful to all the people who put me on the path to get here, and I look forward to working with all y'all. Thank you. Thanks, boss. We walk off.
Trent, we all just want to thank you for all the work you've done, not only as a congressman, but as a soldier's soldier. So thank you for your contribution to both our United States military and to the National Guard Association. Thank you. Thank you. Will the Sergeant at Arms please escort our distinguished guest and his party from the platform?
Thanks, General. Thank y'all. Thank y'all.
Please take your seats. So, I'm not too far off the mark here. We were trying to get to right straight up 12 o'clock, and I think we've gotten very close to it. It's been another great session this morning. We've had some great speakers. Just want you to know lunch is now available on the exhibition floor. Check the app for the number of events and activities that we have this afternoon. I know we have a lot of task forces that are getting together. Remember, tonight is hospitality night. Tomorrow begins with the Army and the Air separate sessions, and the third business professional development session is in here beginning at 11:30 after those sessions. So with that, I'll close out today's meeting. I'll bang the gavel. Y'all have a great day this afternoon. Thank you for attending.
Soon as I get out here on the outskirts, I wish I was running by your house first. Something about a summer in the South sure shines like gold down these old Round Bell River Valley back roads, way back in the holler where the grass grows. God almighty, baby, we were that close. Did you miss